Quebec, Canada, April 2014. The province is about to elect its Member of Parliament. But for the first time in history, along the recurrent question of independence is a dividing debate about secularism. At this time, the province was led by the conservative Parti Québécois, which introduced last September the Charter of Values of Quebec. Under the proposed legislation, provincial employees would be banned from wearing religious symbols while working. Not only does the plan target government workers, but also those receiving services from the state. It would instaure a duty of neutrality by banning the wearing of hijabs, niqab, kippas, and large crosses. However, some smaller signs such as rings or earrings would be permitted. Although Quebec and Canada are known to be secular states, government workers have always been allowed to wear religion signs at work. So what justifies this debate in Quebec?
It is possible in a free and democratic society to curtail certain rights in order to maintain the principle of secularism. In a democratic society, there are restrictions that are necessary in order to maintain this principle and also ensure national security. For instance, there was a big debate over the burqa, the niqab, because this clothing conceals an individual's identity for security purposes. It should be normal to limit their rights of wearing religious signs. Shouldn't we accept, when asked to represent the state, to put aside our own beliefs and not wear religious signs?
Every year, about 250,000 people immigrate to Canada, and about a fifth of them to Quebec, bringing their own culture and beliefs to the province. The charter profoundly divided Quebecers on this issue, and many associations started after violence erupted in Quebec. The association Support Another started after its president got assaulted in the streets of Montreal by a woman who tried to forcefully remove her hijab. Dania is Lebanese and immigrated to Canada when she was 3 years old. She is also a member of the association and would like to become a teacher, but fears that she would be forced to take off her veil.
Religion is not, in our laws, there's no religion. So this is what secularism of the state is. It's not imposing a religion on the people. It doesn't mean that I can't wear my veil, the Jewish man can't wear his kippah, or the Sikh man his turban. That's not what secularism is all about. Secularism is just saying that, well, we as a state, we will not govern with a religion. We won't govern with a specific mindset. I want to find a job in the government, and in doing so, that will be almost impossible, because if private practices can apply the charter, well, there won't be any more jobs for no minority.
Quebec is not the only place to face this debate. Many countries in the world are secular states, such as the Netherlands or Belgium. But France is probably the one that takes the ban of religious signs most seriously. The rich history of the province and its French influence differentiates Quebec from any other province in Canada. The Parti Québécois tried to bring to Quebec a French vision of secularism. But even though Canada has been a secular state since 1982, the question of whether or not the charter is constitutional remains unclear.
The country of Canada was built on the notion of multiculturalism. And this principle doesn't seem to accept fundamental rights restrictions, such as the right to freedom of religion. And that's because it needs to make sure all cultures and all religions are respected. You see, there is a confrontation between Quebec and the rest of Canada on that question. Canada is conforming with systems such as the ones in the UK and the United States, whereas we in Quebec are more interested in what has been done in France.
France, the country of cafés, macarons, the Eiffel Tower, and most of all, a country that has its very own definition of secularism. The separation of the church and the state was voted in 1905. The country has until then fought towards a strict differentiation between religious beliefs and the state. To respond to the assertiveness of the growing Muslim population in France, the country redefined secularism by banning religious signs from public institutions in 2004 and the burqa in public in 2010. Although France has been blamed from limitation to the rights to freedom of expression and religion, members of Le Parti Québécois took the French secularism system as a role model. So, could Quebec ever apply such restrictions, or is it related to specific culture?
Secularism is the guarantee of one's right to believe or not believe and to express that belief within the limit of public order. And it also guarantees neutrality of the state, but only for those who represent the state, to guarantee fairness. But it does not guarantee the neutrality of the entire society. Quebec has a different history than France, which means, maybe, that secularism is not as simple to settle as it was in France. In France, it comes from religious wars, which didn't happen in Quebec. And Quebec is a province that built itself differently, with successive immigration waves, with very different types of population, so it may not be the same story. However, maybe because they had coexistence issues, they are facing some pressure that may justify this vision of secularism in Quebec.
La laïcité pourrait être également là-bas installée.
This year is the 10th anniversary of the head coverings ban in public institutions in France. Although it seems to generate relatively little controversy in the country itself, it was widely criticized worldwide. But for those affected by these restrictions, what do they think of the French vision of secularism?
I've been insulted several times in the streets. People have told me to go home. But where is my home? My home is here. This phenomenon is happening more and more with the so-called government Islamophobia. Secularism is about respecting one's beliefs. It's the opposite of what the media is trying to tell us. The big problem with Quebec is that they're using France as an example, and especially the French secularism system. They think that it's an integration model, when really it's not. We've seen it, and we've been complaining about it for 20 years now. There's a real integration issue here, and our system is sinking. We'll need to find an alternative or initiate something, and quickly.
The Parti Québécois didn't win the elections, and even though the charter was not adopted, the debate has profoundly divided the province and may still come back if they win the next elections. Eugénie Lambert, reporting from Quebec.